Hey, what's up, people? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to our discussion of The Defenders, a Netflix TV show from Marvel. I'm here with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How you doing, Rich?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
Cool, cool. And I'm also here with Mr. Jake James Lugo. How you doing, JJ?
Oh, it's almost time, Gary. If we just got about another week, but it's almost time.
Yeah, almost time. And Mrs. Dana Abercrombie. How you doing, Dana?
Hello, everyone. Excited to talk about this show.
Oh yeah, I know you've been excited to talk about it. So yeah, we actually got access to, half of the season early. We got to see, some of the show and everything. So this is going to be like a no spoiler discussion of what we think, of what we've seen. So I guess like the first question I want to ask you guys is like what were your thoughts on, because obviously this show has, it's the gathering of some characters that we've been watching already on different shows, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Daredevil. So I want to ask you guys, how did they handle the assembling of these characters? Was it done well? Let us know your thoughts without spoiling anything. So I'll go to you first, JJ, because I know you had some things to say.
Yeah, I got to say that like everybody else here on the panel, I've been waiting for this for a while, so I was pretty excited to finally jump into it. One thing I will say, very slow burn than what I expected as far as all heroes like coming together. What I thought was interesting within the first like two episodes out of the four that we saw was that the secondary characters, the supporting cast, is really where the crossovers start to happen at first, where we start to see like some of the characters from Daredevil, from the law firm, start to interact with some of the other characters from Luke Cage, from was it Jessica Jones as well, a variety of different characters, just again not necessarily the main heroes coming together at first, which I thought was interesting. The only thing that got me a little bit annoyed is that when it started to kind of like be a very slow burn into the second and third episode, that's when you start to really start to see, okay, all the different heroes that we've been following throughout all these series start to come together. I thought like maybe it would be a little bit more quicker, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people are expecting that, or at least we're hoping for something like that, even though I appreciated a lot of the backstory buildup for a lot of the stuff that was going on. Overall, I still think that like in the way that some of these characters come together, I thought was pretty interesting. When things finally do start to happen, it makes sense in the context of everything as far as, all the events starting to kind of progress as we get into later in the series.
Okay, yeah. I kind of agree. It is a little bit of a slow burn in terms of them, finally teaming up. But Rich, what did you think?
I have to agree with what has been said already. I personally thought it took a little bit too long to start. And when you think about the fact that this is an 8 episode season, and then it is quite disappointing. But I will say that once they actually came together, it definitely got better. Um, but yeah, I have to agree with Mr. Lugo. I do appreciate the backstory. It's quite a lot of storytelling that they decided to jumble in with all the characters. Um, but they did bring it together eventually. Um, but one of the interesting things is the interactions that certain characters have. I did notice a couple of those interactions I thought were pretty great. But yeah, overall, I just have to say I'm glad when they came together, because it seemed like things just naturally flowed from there. But up until that point, yes, it's a long wait, and just was a little annoyed about the wait. But I guess you could say it was worth the wait. I'm just a little annoyed that again it's only an 8 episode season, uh, pretty much that people have to look forward to.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Dana, what's your thoughts on, how the characters came together, and did it happen quick enough for you?
Okay, I'm going to be an individual here and go away from everyone's opinion. I actually loved it. I thought that, yes, it was extremely disjointed. We followed each character separately, and to me, it felt like I was watching four separate shows. The main thing that I did love about it was the fact that Jessica Jones, her performance and her story was so stand out for me. I just consider this to be Jessica Jones 2.0. I really didn't give a flying fart about Iron Fist and what he was going through. He was the most least. He was the least exciting or interesting character or storyline. All he did was just sit around and mope, and I didn't really care for that. Luke Cage, I liked as well, and I liked also Daredevils. So those were the three that I loved the most. But for me, it was just definitely Jessica Jones' story kept me interested. She kept me vested in the show so much to the point that I didn't think it was going too slow. I thought that it felt like a very slow mystery. I didn't want anything to really be rushed. My only problem is that, yes, it's only 8 episodes. So, say if this was like a 12 episode, even a 16 episode show, that wouldn't have bothered me so much. But I did find myself looking, at the time and seeing, like, wondering how exactly is this going to come together and when it's going to come together, because it was slow. But for the pace that it was going, I really didn't mind it, because like I said, Jessica was such a strong character, and her storyline was just, I wanted to know what was happening and I wanted to know more. And I really loved this whole mystery that they built up for her. And Luke Cage, he kind of did take a back seat to some of the secondary and the supporting characters. And I got to see a little bit more what was going on with the other guys, which again kind of made it feel a little disjointed. If it was supposed to be about these four, the main four, instead of like everyone else's backstories. So I was a little concerned about that, but overall, I didn't mind.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I gotta kind of agree with you because Jessica Jones was definitely like my favorite. You know, her scenes were like my favorite in like the first couple episodes or so. And I feel like Iron Fist scenes they really slow down the show because like he is like the weakest of the characters in my opinion, and a lot of his scenes just don't interest me that much. So I feel like his scenes slow things down a little bit, but once they did start to mix and mingle together, it got more bearable. And just I like well, I can't say too much, but there are scenes where there's conflicts between the characters, and that was kind of hilarious to see. um but I will say that like for an 8 episode show, it shouldn't feel slow at any point. Like it should kind of get straight into the nitty gritty, into the entertainment, because that's pretty short. 8 episodes isn't a lot at all, and that's definitely made apparent by the amount of episodes we got to watch. Like it felt very short. So yeah, I didn't like that there were slow moments initially, but it did start to pick up from like episode 3, which is really good. And I like where it's going. So yeah, JJ, you had something to say?
Yeah, I wanted to comment and give a little bit of props in the way that within the first 2 episodes, the way they shot every single introduction of the heroes, and the way every time when you saw the heroes interacting with their own kind of quote unquote stories before they started to converge, the different styles that you saw from the different Netflix shows start to come together. And it was a good way, as kind of like not a seamless transition, but you could see the transition as you're going through each character from each of their respective shows. Like, for example, every time that you saw Luke Cage, there was a certain style that the camera actually kind of, or at least, the way that it was presented right before you actually got into a scene, and things were a little bit brighter. Every time you saw Jessica Jones, things looked a little bit more grim, a little bit more blue, a little bit more dour. Same thing with Daredevil, and even a little bit with Iron Fist. I thought that was a nice little subtle touch to everything at the very start of the show, which eventually changed up as you start to see these characters start to come together.
Yeah, that's something I definitely want to pay more attention to, like those little the little extra things they do with the cinematography and everything, and the way they shoot it. I didn't pay too much attention to it while I was watching because I was just so invested in story. But I agree that if they went that extra mile to shoot things differently based on the characters, then that's pretty cool that they did that. But my next question was going to be, so once the characters actually meet up, you know, and everything, and you know they're together, and things start to really take off, how do you feel the actual chemistry between the characters was on the show? I'll go to you first, Dana. How was the
This to
chemistry?
me was the most surprising thing of all. I loved it. So sorry for that. I love their dynamic together. I thought that it was brilliant how they had them pair up. They had Daredevil with Jessica Jones and Iron Fist with Luke Cage. And I think Mike Coulter is such an amazing actor to pull out actual talent from Iron Fist, the actor who did Iron Fist. It's escaping me because he's just that boring. I don't care to know his name. But to pull that out of him and to create these scenes where their dynamic is just so interesting. It's this form of like they can't stand each other, and I love the back and forth that they have with each other, and it's kind of like this playful borderline I think I really hate you type thing. And with Daredevil and Jessica Jones, their chemistry is just wonderful. So for that to happen, and there's this scene where they're finally all four of them are together in a restaurant, and you just see this, like, it's not Avengers, but it's like a really good, you know, D-list version of Avengers. So I think they did a really great job with the material that was handled, that they gave them, and I think they did a really great job pulling from each other's strengths, especially anyone who can perform, who can pull a performance out of the guy who plays Danny Rand deserves a round of applause.
Yeah, and I will say, I don't want to talk too much about it, of course, but the scene where they all kind of meet for the first time, I really liked that scene. Like, I thought that was a great sequence. And then there are also some great scenes after that as well. But JJ, what's your thoughts on the chemistry between the characters?
Now, I will give props to a few scenes that eventually, when we finally do the spoiler-filled discussion after the series is out, that I will give props. There was a couple "it's time" moments, which I thought were really cool as you start getting towards that third and fourth episode when they start meeting together, or at least converging all their stories. Everybody comes together at that one point. To be honest with you, I'm actually going to take the flip side of what Dana said. There was a couple moments when I saw the chemistry between Jessica Jones and Daredevil started to wane on me. And it was really, without getting into too much spoiler stuff, is Jessica Jones' character and the way that she was presented didn't really kind of resonate with me as well or as much as everybody else here. But once they were all four together, things kind of got a little bit better for me. But there was just some moments where I feel like maybe it was a little bit too much, or maybe it was a little bit too much in a certain direction, that it just didn't become as interesting as like what Dana mentioned, the relationship and the chemistry that you see between Luke Cage and Iron Fist. I thought that was the more fun pairing out of the two different pairings before all four of them got together. To me, there was just some fun moments in there, and there's a couple of scenes I want to talk about so bad because I think they're like super important, that are, you know, that I feel like it feels like there was like a bullet point that like the creators wanted to address going into Defenders, especially coming off of Luke Cage and Iron Fist, that I thought was great. And they kind of get it out the way within that first episode, which I'll touch on in the spoiler-filled discussion when we eventually have it. But if I had to really choose what was the best pairing out of the, you know, between the four of them, or like, you know, the different mix and matches between them all, it was definitely Luke Cage and Iron Fist. To me, that was the most coolest one. And it had the most range, like what Dana mentioned. When they're, I can't say specific scenes, but there's one where the two of them are talking, and there's just there's a roller coaster of emotions, which I thought worked really well and really had me interested for that entire time.
Yeah, definitely can't wait till our spoiler discussion so we can, you know, talk about some of this stuff more. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I mean, as far as my favorite pairing, well, I don't know. Like, I thought they were all great together. I can't pick like a favorite, but that particular scene you're talking about, that's definitely a standout scene between Luke Cage and Iron Fist, I think. But I also think Jessica Jones and Iron Fist have some great scenes as well. But Rich, what's your thoughts on the chemistry between characters?
So I will say this. The chemistry between Mike Coulter and Finn Jones, you know, I have to refer to him by his real name also, because I I know Dana was talking about that guy that plays Iron Fist. You know, I got to show him a little bit more respect than that.
I can't.
But
He's
yeah,
being a hater.
I think that is the best dynamics, at least from what I've seen so far. And it's only because, there's stuff that we can't talk about, obviously, because this is a discussion where we can't really get into spoilers. But the interaction that these two characters have with each other, I think so far is a little bit better than the relationship between Daredevil and Jessica Jones. Obviously, that's going to change over time once we've had a chance to see more and then to see how they interact further beyond the first 4 episodes. But I definitely think if I was to pick one of those relationships that matters most, I think right now, yes, Luke Cage and Iron Fist definitely stand out for many reasons that we will discuss in the future. I will also add the fact that, we also see, of course, the reunion of sorts between Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, which was also interesting because you could see that there's still some genuine feelings of looking out for each other that they have. And, because we already know about the past between those two characters. So I'm glad that they did acknowledge that. They didn't just gloss over that and just say, hey, how's it going? How's it going? No, there was genuinely concern for each other, which they tried to catch up to some degree. But so far, I definitely think that the relationships are good. I'm not saying that the Daredevil and Jessica Jones relationship isn't good. It is interesting, but again, because of certain stuff that has already happened between Iron Fist and Luke Cage, I think that stands out a little bit more so far. But we'll see what happens in the next 4 episodes.
Cool. So, I believe it was either JJ or Dana who mentioned the supporting cast before. Now, like, of course, it's great to see, these big characters, finally meet each other and interact with each other. But what I thought was neat was that you also get, each character's supporting character as well. Like, there are supporting characters from each one of those character shows in the Defenders, and we sometimes get to see them involved in the story, and they also kind of interact with each other and other characters at some point. So what's your thoughts on the supporting cast and how much of a part they've been playing? Because I didn't expect to see like all of those characters brought back, to be honest with you. So I think it's kind of great that they found a way to get each of them involved in some way. Dana, what's your thoughts?
I loved it. I want to see more of it. I love the dynamic that you can feel the tension. Obviously, I can't say much, but you can feel the tension between Rosario Dawson, who plays Night Nurse, and the actress who plays Misty. I love that. It's the little small things, like that type of tension that they had between each other. And then you have, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Foggy, him as well, and him dealing with the other characters. I just love it. To me, I thought it was that wonderful. They threaded it very nice between each other. And to me, it was a surprise. I didn't expect to see that. I thought it was going to just jump right on into, them forming this team, and that would be it, especially with only 8 episodes. So I appreciated how they was able to do that whole dynamic and bring everything together. And you kind of see that if you was to watch the opening credit scene, even from then, how it's basically like a map, and how it's all of Manhattan and how everything connects to each other. Not Manhattan, of New York City, and how everything connects to each other. So I appreciate that very much, and I appreciate the ensemble cast because they really helped tie together the story, and they really helped with the guy who plays Iron Fist in his acting.
Rich, how do you feel about the supporting cast?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that we started to see a lot of this take form within the other shows, because then they had a supporting character from one show pop up in another show. So I think we started to see some of this stuff happen in the previous shows, and the way that they've handled it so far in the first 4 episodes, I think has been great. I mean, we've seen the majority of some of the supporting characters. Obviously, I can't say anything, go into any spoilers, but so far the interactions are there, and again, the emphasis of the threat and how there are other characters that are important to the main characters here. You get a deeper sense of that because they do have them in this particular series as well. So you get the sense that they are fighting to keep those other people that are important to them in their lives safe. So far, I would say that they've handled it well. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what they do in the second half of the season.
Cool. And how about you, JJ?
Same thing. I liked the different interactions between the secondary supporting casts. I thought it was cool seeing Foggy interact with the attorney from Jessica Jones, who just happens to be Danny Rand's attorney. There was just some fun comedic moments there that I thought was interesting. And the same thing with Misty Knight, as well as also Night Nurse, and just a lot of the dynamics, knowing the backstory and knowing some of the events that happen in places like Luke Cage and everything else. It was just interesting to see all that finally come together in some way. And to kind of go off of what Dana had mentioned, the opening sequence I thought was dope. I thought that when they were showcasing every single hero, they were showcasing like their own borough, their own section of New York City, and then all of it overlapping, like what she mentioned. I thought that was very cool. It was a huge turnaround from what we got from Iron Fist, which I thought was lame. The Netflix shows I always thought had cool stylized opening sequences, and Iron Fist just took a real big nosedive for me, and this one was a good recovery. I thought it was really awesome to see that, especially when it comes to like reinforcing the idea that all these different characters and all these different stories and all these different people are converging onto one main story throughout these 8 episodes. So that was pretty dope. What I would hope is that at some point, again, maybe in 1 or 2 more episodes that we get to see in the season, that we get to see these secondary characters interact again, or even get to mix and match some of the main characters like what we saw a few times throughout those first 4 episodes, interact with different supporting cast, talking to some of the different characters here and there. I thought that gets a little bit more interesting than just seeing the supporting cast just interact with each other like that.
Yeah, I agree. That would be cool. Like if you see like a Misty Knight pop up in like a Daredevil season or something like that, that would be cool to see. But I don't think it's any secret that Sigourney Weaver is, in this show. So I want to ask you guys what you thought of her performance in the show without, spoiling too much. Rich, what did you think of Sigourney Weaver and her performance?
Aliens, man. It's great to see Ridley. It's great to see Ridley. No, so here's the thing. Sigourney Weaver was a good choice. I think when they announced that she was going to be on this show, I was very curious to see how they was going to handle the character. Not going to go into too many spoilers, really, but so far I don't really have a problem with how they've handled her. If there is one thing that I will say, it's that I understand she has an important role, and there's a lot of things that have to do with her character. But based on the last episode that we saw, I'm starting to sense, well, there may be some other people involved in this. And that is the point of which I'm most interested in seeing, because based on what I've seen so far, I don't get a sense of the major threat quite yet. Obviously, though, that is going to change based on what I saw in the 4th episode in certain discussions that she had with other people. So I'm very curious to see exactly where they're heading with that particular direction. But yeah, her character is great, and they also do make you feel a little sympathetic towards the character, without really going into any detail. So I'm curious to see where the journey that they're going to take her on further. And, who are these other individuals that she's going to be working with to, take care of our heroes?
Mm-hmm. And JJ, what would you feel about Sigourney Weaver's performance?
I'm lukewarm on Sigourney Weaver, to be honest with you. I think she's a fantastic actress. Her pedigree and her portfolio, backlog of work speaks for itself. She's awesome. However, in the 4 episodes that I've seen thus far, there's a couple things I'm a little bit mixed on. And again, I can't get into too many specifics because of spoilers, which we'll deep dive into it eventually when we do our spoiler discussion about the series. But there's, like Rich, I still don't have a real clear-cut idea of what the big major threat is. I kind of understand what she is and how she comes into play and her importance to the big overarching narrative as a whole. However, there is a couple things that I feel like are missing that are kind of, stuff that hasn't really been explained as much. Maybe we get that explained in some of the subsequent episodes, but there's a part of me that feels like she's a little bit OP without much explanation for it. Now, and again, that sounds very vague and it sounds a little bit outlandish without, specific examples, again, because of spoilers. But that's where I'm at right now with her. She has an interesting story as far as her character and how it relates to everything that's going on in New York City at the time. But I feel like there still needs to be more there. There's something that I feel like I'm missing that just hasn't been given to me just yet that I feel like may make everything kind of click into place, but I'm still kind of lukewarm on her.
Okay, interesting. Dana, what's your thoughts on Sigourney Weaver?
I thought that her introduction, and it wasn't exactly very smooth. I think the writing for her could have been a little bit better. The transitioning could have been a little bit better. But for what was given to her, I thought she was wonderful. I didn't have any problems with her. She had this subtleness that I would kind of compare a little bit. I mean, a tad bit. Remember, we only saw 4 episodes, but a small tad bit of Kingpin. It was very subtle. Like, you knew that deep down you don't want to mess with her, but she tried to not, portray that as much. It was just like this really strong woman, but deep down, and then you saw a little bit by like the 3rd episode that she's not someone that you want to fully mess with. So I don't exactly view her as being a major threat, but I do feel that she has the potential to get there.
Cool. Pretty interesting thoughts on Sigourney. It's interesting that it's not all positive across the board. Like there's kind of mixed thoughts on that. But yeah, I mean, it is going to be hard to give a definitive answer until we see the entire thing. But I do understand where everyone's coming from with that. And a lot of her character has to do with the story. So I want to kind of touch on the story. Obviously, we can't get too deep because spoilers and everything. But I want to know what you guys think of the story in Defenders. Like, is it too convoluted, or is it confusing, or is it good? So let us know what you think of the story generally. So Dana, I'm going to go back to you first. What's your thoughts on the actual story of the show?
The actual story, I didn't have a problem with. Again, I need a little bit more episodes to flesh everything out, but I don't know whether or not it was slightly disjointed at first. Because remember, everyone's doing their own thing. So you have like Danny Rand's busy. I don't even know what his storyline originally was, aside from "Are you the hand? Are you the hand?" every 5 seconds. But I felt that it could have been a little bit better, but right now, from 1 to episode 4, I think that they improved on it. I like where it could go. I don't know what's fully going to happen, but so far I'm very interested, and I liked how they tied everything together because, as I said originally, it was very disjointed, and I didn't know what was going on with who, and the only person I seemed to pay more attention to was Jessica Jones. So by the time it kept going on, I think that it's becoming more cohesive. I'm becoming more interested, and they're finding a pattern. They're finding their own rhythm where everything is going to hopefully be fleshed out. So I'm hopeful.
Okay, JJ, how about you?
I'm kind of similar to Dana right now, that things at first were a little bit disjointed, and it feels like, again, a slow burn overall. There are some stuff that's happening within the first 4 episodes that we saw, and I'm hoping that things pick up the pace a little bit with the next 4 episodes when we finally see them and we finally actually get some more better clarity and conclusions and explanations on everything. I feel like some of the backstory for some of the characters, particularly Sigourney Weaver's character, and a few other things going on in the background as far as like the greater issue at hand still needs more explanation, and I feel like that's going to come. Like, I bet you, like, when we go to watch like the 5th episode, it's all going to be just thrown out there for us. It'll probably be pretty crazy if that's the case, but as of right now, I'm down with the story. I'm in it because, again, I love seeing these characters coming together, and I love the interactions between them. I still am intrigued with what's happening with New York, and as far as a lot of stuff of what they've shown in the trailers, as far as like there's a big battle and there's a big thing happening at some point, as well as some of the other characters that we've seen that we can't really get into now that show up and have actually, talked about some stuff. But I also am curious to know if other aspects of the Netflix series end up coming into play later on in the series, and if that picks up the story and makes it even more interesting and even more dynamic as it sets up for maybe other stuff down the line. But right now, I'm still down with it. I'm still in with it. So I can't wait to see the next 4 episodes.
Cool. And how about you, Rich?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much in agreement with a lot that has already been said. It just feels as though, well, for me personally, it feels as though there has been a lot of stories going on at once. And once it comes together into the central storyline, I feel as though that's still developing. Yeah, we finally do have all of the characters together, but I feel like, again, we have to get a deeper sense of what is the actual threat. We already know that we have a good idea of what the threat is. For those that saw the trailer, you already saw them teaming up to take down some bad guys. But I think you definitely need to see more in terms of what the overall plan is, what Sigourney Weaver's overall focus is, and a lot of that stuff is still a little bit of a mystery to everybody. We did get some details in that last episode. But yeah, I just feel like it has been a slow burn pretty much up until that point. So I am hopeful that, the next 4 episodes are going to pretty much explain a lot of things and really give a little bit more perspective as to what is actually going on with the storyline. What is the actual threat in terms of the bad guys? What are they trying to do with all the stuff that they are doing? So yeah, we definitely need to get more insight on that. But for now, I understand that they had to bring the characters together. And like Mr. Lugo mentioned earlier, with the different camera shots, one point that I will also make is I did notice that the particular music that they use for certain characters. Like, I know that Luke Cage, obviously hip hop. I did make a comment about that, where, like, why the black guy got to have the hip hop music. But I understand the context of the character. He had to have that. But yeah, I mean, I like how they brought the characters together. So now we just need to see where the storyline is going, and hopefully we'll get a better idea of that in the next couple of episodes.
Yeah, I agree with you. So the last kind of question I want to ask you guys, and I'll give you a chance after to kind of air your open thoughts on the show and everything. But I wanted to ask you guys, how do you think the rest of the season is going to pan out? And what do you think the reception will be once, this show goes live on Netflix for everyone? So I'll go with you first, JJ.
I think that, at least I'm hoping, the next 4 episodes, or at least the conclusion of the series, picks up the pace. At least that's what I'm hoping. I don't know if I can necessarily say that that's going to be the case, when we actually see it, but that's my expectation, and that's what at least I hope that things go down. As far as the reception from everybody else, I think everybody's going to be excited for it. Everybody that's been watching these series has been invested into it and has been awaiting for these characters to come together, and I think that's going to be part of the charm of it, even though it's 8 episodes, and I wish that it was longer, kind of like the other Netflix series, but it's still just the fun of seeing seeing all these like series come together. It's like watching the CW crossovers with the CW shows on the DC universe. Same idea when you get that one night when everybody's just crossing over together like that. It's part of the fun, and I think that's part of the charm of what Defenders is going to be. It just so happens that Defenders might actually be very good. So who knows? Let's see. Hopefully a bunch of people jump on it when it comes out on Netflix later this month.
Cool. How about you, Rich?
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people are looking forward to the show. They're very excited. I think the reception will be positive. I know that when Iron Fist came out, there was a lot of people that was defending that show. I heard a couple of complaints, but for the majority, a lot of people defended the show, tried to say it's great. I don't really think there will be too many complaints this time around. It may be a complaint about maybe Finn Jones' performance, but I don't really think he's as bad as he was in Iron Fist. So I don't think it's going to be too many complaints about that. But again, as far as the second half of the season, to me, it really will depend on what happens with the next 4 episodes, because again, it feels like everything is a slow burn. And then once they actually come together, that's when it really kicks off, when they come together. But ultimately, it's going to depend how they finish that out, because I feel like, again, with the only 8-episode order, you only have but so much that you can do with those 8 episodes. So how they use the next 4 episodes is going to be very crucial to the overall perception. But people are going to be just happy that the show is out there, because they have been watching all the other Netflix shows and they've been waiting for this team up. So they'll be happy nonetheless. But whether or not it ends up becoming one of the better shows of all the Marvel shows, that is to be determined, because we still need to see what they have to show us in the next couple episodes.
Okay, cool. Dana, how about you?
He said Finn Jones wasn't as bad. That made me laugh. Heh. I'm sorry. That was funny. No, to me, he still sucks. The only difference is that we have we have actors who are able to help mask his performance, so he sucks less. But no, he's horrible. I'm sorry. No. Obviously people are very excited for the show and they're gonna just tune right in. But you know what? I don't really know how this is going to work. I don't know how this is going to pan out, and I'm not going to take that excited route and be like, yay, it could be wonderful. And the reason why is that Netflix, their Marvel shows have been uneven. We've had Daredevil, which was great. We've had Jessica Jones, which was phenomenal. We had Luke Cage, which was like a lukewarm reception. Then you had Iron Fist, which to me was the worst thing I've ever seen and should have never came out. But then you have Defenders, and it's to me, I'm gonna hope for the best. I don't know how this will work. I think, just keep. Oh gosh, I just hope they stay focused. I hope everyone is able to have a useful part, and it works out. But I know for a shadow of a doubt, people are going to be excited for this. They're excited for everything. And, like I said before, it's a D-rated Avengers. So if you're longing to see the Avengers again, but, they didn't have the budget or money type thing for it, they're your neighborhood Avengers. So I'm for that. So I'm gonna lean towards being neutral.
That D grade sounds pretty bad.
Sorry.
I just think because she's a Finn Jones hater. That's all I'm saying. She's hating real hard.
I don't speak on something that I'm not hating. Hating will require
like part of the player haters club there. Finn Jones ain't gonna be too pleased.
I'm not a player hater. I don't appreciate that performance. I appreciate watching something that doesn't put me to sleep and watching something where every 5 seconds, have you seen the hand? Where's the hand? Where's the hand? And you looking out the window and being pensive and dragging the whole series down. I'm not hating. Now, the thing me saying was, oh my gosh, he's horrible and everything. No, they are positive about him. There are other actors who can mask that performance and bring out what they need from him, from that actor. And again, it may not be him. It could just be the script and how he's interpreting that.
No,
so I'm not hating.
I think it's the direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not hating on him, the actor. You do what you're doing. You are able to feed yourself, pay your bills, and you're doing great, and you're smiling, and you're impressed to her. I'm not going to hate on that. We would all love to be able to eat and pay our bills at the same time. My thing is just work. Either the directors need to work with it or something is not, for me, it's not working out. But because of that, and because there is, for me, a type of meh reaction when it comes to Luke Cage, I am still on the fence, and I'm not going to jump up and be great and positive about something. I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to be hopeful but I'm not going to sit around and be like, nope, this is going to be great. This is going to be wonderful, because I've been burned too many times.
I just would like to make one comment. Definitely, everybody needs to remember that this show is called The Defenders, because there will be a lot of people defending this show, even if they do think it's bad. So just be aware of that.
And this show, for me, it's not like complete trash. To me, there are great qualities about this show. So again, I'm just going to be neutral. I liked what I liked. I didn't like what I like. But, you can't get everything that's going to be perfect, especially with, the dynamics that we have working with the show. I just hope that they focus and they're really great. And I want them to succeed. In no shape or form am I looking forward to this being terrible. I want them to succeed with everything that they can. I'm just been burned. So I'm not going to just jump back into the fire again.
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from a little bit, I guess you gotta take the good with the bad. But one other thing I wanted to ask you guys as well was, like, from what we've seen, has this show got you excited to see any one of the heroes in their own series again, like in the new season? Like for me specifically, I can't wait to get another Jessica Jones, because it feels like it's been like too long since the first one, and this show kind of got me interested in her character again. So, I can't wait for the next season of that. But did this show get you anticipating the next season of any of these characters? Go ahead, Rich.
Yes, it definitely did, and it's hard for me to really say too much on this without giving any spoilers, but I will say I am definitely interested to see what happens with Daredevil season 3, because of how they have handled the characters so far in this particular series. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to Daredevil season 3. The others also, but Iron Fist, obviously that is at the lower end of the list. That'll be the last thing that I will see after I've already seen all the other shows.
Okay, how about you, Dana?
As I said in the beginning, I've never been more excited to see Jessica Jones. To me, the way how it was going, especially in like the third and the second episode, I felt like this was a Jessica Jones 2.5. What is it? 1.5. We didn't get season 2 yet, right? Right. Okay. Yeah. And this, to me, showed me that you can have a Jessica Jones without Purple Man. So I'm excited for that. I'm looking forward to that season. I'm looking forward to Luke Cage, not necessarily because of the show. I'm looking forward to everything that happens with Shades. I'm like dying for that to happen. So between those two and Daredevil, I'm looking forward to see how the events are going to play out. And again, Iron Fist, go jump in the water somewhere.
That's harsh. It's harsh right there. But JJ,
he can swim. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, if I had to choose, like, out of the four of them, which one I'm probably looking most forward to, I would have to say either Daredevil or Luke Cage are the two shows that I would love to see how this post Defenders or what those shows are going to be like. I'm not really down as much with Jessica Jones as you guys. Like, there's a couple different reasons, and again, it has to do with spoiler stuff that I can't get into now, and eventually I'll elaborate on that a little bit more when we do our spoiler discussion. But Same thing with Iron Fist. I'm not as excited with those two as much as I am for the other two. What I do hope is maybe there is a little bit more crossover in some capacity that's maybe a little bit more diffused, a little bit more shorter in some of the other series between these different characters, without getting into spoilers and stuff. But if I had to choose two, it'd probably be Daredevil season 3 and Luke Cage season 2, just to see like what those shows are going to be like after Defenders.
Yeah, like you said, I do hope, like, say for example in Daredevil season 3, like it would be cool if in one episode like Daredevil's just kind of outnumbered or something, and he just gives Luke Cage a call and he's like, "Yo, meet me in Hell's Kitchen tomorrow evening, so we can do this, so we can hit up this spot and wipe out this gang." Like that would be cool, like just for one episode, like I would like to see that. But yeah, I definitely feel like there should be crossovers like that moving forward. But yeah, let's just get some open thoughts on what you guys thought of the show and anything else you have to say. So Rich, go ahead, your mic's open.
Well, wait a second, Gary. You didn't answer your own question. Which show are you looking forward to most?
I already said Jessica Jones.
You did say
sure.
Jessica. Okay, I missed that. Yeah. All right. Well, no, I mean, again, I think the show is good so far. Obviously, when I saw the first episode, I know that there was some of you that maybe saw it before me, and I heard complaints of the first 2 episodes, so I was already had a bad mindset at that point. But then when I saw the show, it was it was okay. But again, when it gets to a certain point towards episode 3, I think is the turning point for me. When I saw that episode, I was like, okay, yeah. And in particular, when they actually have that fight that everyone has already seen pieces of on YouTube, that was when shit hit the fan. I'm like, oh yes, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. So I'm looking forward to what's going to happen. But I would say it's great so far. If there's only one complaint that I would make, it would be that I'm very disappointed that Netflix only sent us 4 episodes, because obviously at the end of the 4th episode is a pretty important thing happens, and it's like now you got to wait until the actual show airs to see the rest of it. So I didn't like that, but other than that, so far they have me excited, looking forward to the next 4 episodes. So I think it's good so far.
Cool. JJ, I think you had something you wanted to mention about someone who is featured in the trailer. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Well, again, that gets into a little bit more too much spoiler stuff, but I will say I am looking forward to the rest of the series. I am enjoying it as I watch. I'm curious to see if there's other aspects of the Netflix universe for the Marvel properties that do come into play later on, like towards the end of this season, or at least towards the final episodes, because there are stuff that has not really been addressed too much that's kind of lingering, that I'm really curious to see if they kind of come back to in some capacity. But again, I'm enjoying the series, and I can't wait to watch the next couple episodes, and I can't wait to see where it brings the Netflix universe of Marvel shows afterwards.
Okay, cool. And Dana, did you have anything else you wanted to bring up about Defenders?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm going to say something. You guys are going to probably lose it, so hold on to your butt cheeks. It's something positive about Danny Rand. Hold on. That fight scene was the fight scenes we should have gotten in Iron Fist.
I agree.
That was so, oh my gosh, it was like watching a dance. It was art. I loved that entire scene, and I can't go into everything with details, but there's some parts also with like Elektra, and I'm not going to get into it, but like my soul was crying tears of joy to me. So it shows you that somewhere deep down inside, Finn Jones has it. You just have to pull it out of him. That whole fight scene was amazing. I loved it. And there's also a little scene with Sigourney Weaver. Now, granted, she's not, going around high kicking everyone and, killing everyone up and stabbing them in the face and stuff. But still, her little tiny little fight thing that she did, that was great too. I enjoyed that. So there are small moments of this show that truly, to me, it was like a little apology for Iron Fist. So yay, Danny. See, positive.
Yeah, I agree. Like from episode 1, like the action was better than Iron Fist, like the entire season of Iron Fist. Go ahead,
I
Rich.
would compare it a little bit to Daredevil with the action.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick comment. Based on what Dana just said, I am now 100% convinced that Finn Jones will win her over in the second half of the season.
He's so funny. I like it.
We'll see. But yeah, the fighting is on point. And again, as we've already said, the fight scene where they all are fighting, that was fantastic for me. That was like, okay, yes, that was a time to get hyped right there.
And it shows the chemistry that they have. They have good chemistry.
Yeah.
And even though it was choreographed and we all know it's fake, it kind of, to me, it felt so natural. That's what I appreciated about it. So.
Yeah.
Do you guys think we're gonna see Punisher come through and blow some shit up in this season?
He was teased in the trailer during Comic-Con, like after, the Stanley trailer that was kind of like promoting Defenders. So he was teased a little bit. Maybe. I think it'd be cool, but I want it to be a legit reason. If there's no legit reason for him to be there, because we already have a lot going on with these 4 characters, then he doesn't need to be there. Or at least just give us a little tease towards the end then at that point. But don't just shoehorn him in there.
Yeah. Dana, what was your thoughts on that?
I would love to see it. But again, we're only having 8 episodes, so I don't want everything just to be, a whole bunch of different characters thrown about. We already are dealing with a lot of different characters. So it would be maybe something at the very end that would tie in and go into, now we have the Punisher season 1 coming up. So maybe that would be a nice little teaser, but I don't want to see him like full blown Punisher. And then you got, Sigourney Weaver running around and then some other people. So just stay focused. He doesn't need to be a priority right now.
Fair. I mean, yeah, I can understand what you guys are saying, but he's my favorite character, so I'm just kind of hoping. But yeah, Rich, what's your thoughts?
Oh, I missed. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yes. I have to agree with pretty much what has been said. It has to be a reason for him to be in there. Again, there's only 4 episodes left, so I don't think, if you're trying to say that this is the beginning of the Punisher season, at one point towards the end or something like that, I'm fine with that. But yeah, there has to be a reason for him to be in there if he's in there. Otherwise, I don't think he is needed in this. But again, we do know, at least from what we saw thus far, there's definitely going to be some more characters that will be coming in at some point. So very curious to see who those characters are going to be. But yeah, a Punisher appearance will be cool. But I would rather just wait for the show, since we already know the other show is coming now anyway. But that's just my opinion.
All right, cool. Well, with that being said, I guess we're going to end off. There's not much more we can say without, dabbling into spoiler territory. So we're going to end off here. But, we will be back once the show is out and, we've seen it and everybody else has seen it. We will be back to talk, spoilers and get more in depth with the Defenders and everything. So look out for that show. But for now, we're out. So thanks for listening. Make sure you check out the site, koalition.com, Koalition with a K. We've got a lot of content on there. We cover everything from video games to movies, TV shows, and everything entertainment related. So definitely check out the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and subscribe to our iTunes feed as well. But for now, we'll see you guys later.